Well, welcome to CrossFit Lincoln Connections. I'm Aaron Perky Pyle, sitting with Mike Gerdes here. Is it Gerdes or Gerdes?
Gerdes.
Gerdes. Oh, man, that's on me. Sitting with Mike Gerdes, Athlete of the Month, January 2020. Way to start the year. Tall, light, and handsome. Tall, light, and handsome.
One of those three things, yes.
Yeah, all of those three things. Tall, light, and handsome. Mike, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
It's been fun to watch you over the. How long you been at CrossFit Lincoln?
It's been
a little over a year.
Over a year. It was October of 2018.
Yeah, it's been really fun to watch you kind of progress as an athlete and just be rewarded by your consistency in the gym. So thanks for being at the gym, being
Absolutely.
a member, and thanks for joining us on the podcast to tell us a little bit about your story and about where you've been and maybe where you're going. And so thanks a lot.
Cool. You bet. Yeah, it's been fantastic.
Yeah. So you're from Nebraska originally, but not Lincoln. Where are you from?
Correct. I am from just outside of Johnson, Nebraska.
Okay.
Down about 60 miles southeast of Lincoln.
All right. Bustling metropolis of Johnson.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you went to high school there in Johnson?
Johnson Brock.
Johnson Brock.
Yep.
Didn't they just recently win a basketball title?
They did. Well, they won basketball and football last year.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
It's big doings down there.
That's right.
Awesome. Did you win a basketball title when you were at Johnson Brock?
Kind of. I was I was on the bench to participate in a couple of basketball championships, yes.
Then you get a ring too.
I did.
Because those guys had to practice
Those were
against
freshman,
you.
sophomore years, yeah.
Yeah, awesome, man.
Couldn't quite sustain it later on.
Was that a fun experience?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And you're married?
Married, 2 kids.
Yeah.
I have a 6-year-old daughter, 2-year-old son.
Awesome. Where'd you meet your wife?
Met her here in Lincoln.
Yeah?
Through eHarmony.
Okay. Very
Yeah.
cool. And how long you guys been married?
9 years now.
Okay.
Next year will be 10.
Wow. Congrats.
Thanks.
Did you guys get married in Lincoln?
Yes.
Yeah. So where do you work? I see Silverhawk Aviation on there. Tell me a little bit about that.
Yep. So I work out at the airport, Silverhawk Aviation. So we do all kinds of general aviation things.
Sure.
My side specifically on charter flights, private charter flights, and we also do aircraft maintenance, fuelings, and hangar storage, those types of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how long have you done that?
Boy, I've been out there, well, off and on since about 2001. That was back when I was taking my flying lessons, and I started working out at the front desk.
Yeah.
At the time, Silverhawk had a flight school, and so the discounts by being an employee outweighed what I was earning as an employee.
Sure.
And I came back as a charter pilot in 2007.
Okay.
Been there ever since.
What were you doing kind of in between then? The 2001 to 2007?
Finishing up college.
Yeah.
And then when I graduated, I didn't have enough flight time to get hired anywhere. There wasn't a flight school here in Lincoln, and so it was kind of just sorting out exactly how to get from A to B to actually get paid to do what my passion was.
Yeah.
And so I started out working in a cubicle out at State Farm. Realized very quickly that, yes, cubicle life is definitely not for me. And so as soon as I was able to step in, Performance Aircraft came into Lincoln, started up a flight school, so I helped them get that started.
Very cool.
They were in the building of Silverhawk, and then I just shifted it over about a year later.
Awesome. So it sounds like you probably didn't have, your degree wasn't in aviation?
It was not. I had degrees in math and finance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have those served you well in aviation?
Surprisingly, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't think they were going to as I was moving into piloting, but as I've gotten more involved in ownership and management, the business degree especially, it's been surprising how many of those different business courses I remember from back in college that have actually been very useful.
Awesome. So was there a professor in college that you were kind of like, I can't stand that person, but now you're like, thanks so much for your class? You want to give anyone some
put
love?
Me on the spot here. None that I
you like
did
them
not
now,
like.
you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, probably the ones that I make the most use of now, I would say I also enjoyed at the time, and so no one in particular. Actually, Dr. Ferris was one of my favorite business college professors, and I believe she's now the dean of CBA, so that's kind of cool.
Awesome. Very cool. So you're from Johnson, moved to Nebraska or moved to Lincoln for college,
right?
And then stuck around after college. Yeah. Tell me a little bit about your fitness background. Played basketball in high school. I referenced that. I know.
Yes.
I knew that.
Well, small town Nebraska. You pretty much do all the sports, all being basketball, football, and track.
Sure.
And so I did those pieces. And I'd say my fitness journey just in general has been very sporadic. for most of my life, all up until CrossFit.
Yeah.
I mean, during high school, I'd work out during seasons, take breaks off. Come to college, I'd do it on occasion. After college, it got really sporadic where I would get so fed up with feeling tired and out of shape that I would then all of a sudden try to go from 0 to 100. And so I did the various P90X, 1, 2, 3, Insanity, Body Beast types of workouts.
Sure.
And they're fantastic. I would do them for a couple months, feel like, hey, now it felt like less of a crisis.
Right.
And so then when it was less urgent, I was doing these generally in the evenings, and there's always scheduling conflicts in the evenings. And so something would come up, and I would start missing a few workouts, and then eventually I'd get sick for a week or go on vacation or something, and that was pretty much the end of it.
Right.
And then repeat that about once a year for, the last 20 years until finally CrossFit changed all that.
How did you find CrossFit?
So I've been aware of it forever since I got started. I have a brother-in-law who's been doing it in Omaha for, I'm not sure how long, probably 5 to 7 years, a long time. So I've been hearing him talking about it. My wife had been urging me. She's like, I think this is something that you'd really enjoy.
Yeah.
But it's like, I'm not sure that I am in shape enough. I feel like if I do that P90X one more time, then I'll be at a stage where I can go and do CrossFit.
Right.
And that did not happen. And so eventually I just got fed up with myself, went in, took a tour, happened to be Buddy Week.
Yeah.
And so Paul had given me the tour. He's like, hey, you could be my buddy this week. And so I got started. By the end of the week, I drug in another friend.
Yeah.
And that was...
Here's looking at you, John.
Exactly, right. That was pretty helpful because he was also coming right away to get that initial habit formed.
Right.
And then I was kind of thinking about it this morning of the many pieces that have helped reinforce it, because there were a lot of different aspects to it. One of it was having a friend initially.
Yeah.
And then later on, as I got to know all the same people through the mornings, they've all become my friends as well. And so I think community is probably the biggest piece that kept it coming back. The other part that was interesting, just my own little mental prodding, is the fact that I'm usually looking at the workouts the night before, and I would reserve my spot, and I would sign in. And so that little mental commitment during the night when I was feeling jazzed about it basically took away the decision the next morning, and that's pretty huge. I've talked with some friends before about how it's so much harder to be 98% committed to something than it is 100% committed. It's like 10 times harder.
Yeah.
And just by eliminating that choice of, am I going to come in this morning or not?
Yeah.
Then just repeating that again and again. And the fact that having awesome coaches there who are encouraging us the whole time, always helping us improve, always different workouts every single day. And just feels like the whole gym really pulling for each other. Just kind of combining all those pieces together, and now it's just what I do. Yeah. The other big piece I'd say that probably changed here last couple years that helped make this happen is I started flying less. Yeah. So when I was being full-time charter pilot and gone all the time and on just a random schedule, it was pretty tough. Something like this, of coming at a consistent time, just never would have happened. Now, going into the office each morning, it works out perfect to just go at 6 a.m. and there aren't too many scheduling conflicts at that time. Yeah. And so that's what has let me just continue with it.
And every once in a while I see you at 5 a.m. and I always wonder if the world's okay. Mike's world isn't falling down, is it?
Might feel like it when I first get up at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
But that's just when something is... when I need to get in just a little bit earlier, but don't want to sacrifice that workout for the day, I'll make it happen.
Have you ever come to any later classes in the day?
I have once or twice, a couple times. I think I've done a 9:30 class and then a 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon one time.
Yeah. Did that feel weird to wait that long?
It did, yes. Yeah. My body wasn't quite sure what to make of it. Yeah. Well, and then just when we've been doing the open workouts and coming during the evenings, right. I don't know if it's worse there because I think probably in general I'm just more awake and have a little more energy, and so that helps. Plus, it's just a different environment when everyone's doing it at the same time and all excited about it. Right. But it's nice.
Awesome. Man, there's so many places I want to go. So it took... I remember when you and John first started. Yeah. I'm still talking to you, John.
Exactly.
It's my goal for John to know that I've been thinking about him.
Yes.
So I remember you guys had this push-up contest. You guys were going to go on a vacation together, you and your spouses.
Right. Yes.
and there was a push-up contest, and the loser was going to have to buy drinks for everybody.
Man.
And yeah, I remember these
You had
random
to bring
things.
this up.
And I remember it was starting to get close, and all of a sudden I didn't see John anymore, but you were
Yeah,
still there, and you're
I
like, all right, I got to
was.
start working on my push-ups.
Yeah, I think he had stopped coming consistently at least about a month before that. And I kind of let him off the hook. I also somewhat didn't. I was like, man, if he hasn't been coming for a month and I still lose, that is so much worse. And so that was kind of my excuse where we both just agreed wrist's really been hurting. I think we'll just
Yeah. Now he flies a lot.
lie.
He flies a lot more than you.
He does quite a bit more.
Yeah.
He has also scaled back quite a bit this last year. So that's still no excuse. Don't let him use that.
I'm trying to let him know. I'm not trying to throw him under the bus, but I miss him.
Yes.
I miss seeing him out there. So you guys didn't end up doing the push-up contest.
We did not.
Yeah, I thought I remembered that.
Yeah.
So you're getting ready to fly out. I think you guys have a year-end meeting or something coming up. You're going to fly out.
Yes.
You're going to make everybody do push-ups there too?
I think we probably should.
I think that should be part of the
On the
annual
flight
meeting.
down, in fact.
Absolutely.
So Dave, he's one of my other coworkers, for those who don't know, who also comes in the morning. I'm going to call him out too, where he did not attend this morning because he didn't want to be sore during the trip. And so I was letting him know, don't worry, found some bodyweight workouts that we could do while we're gone.
Absolutely.
And I think there's room that we could do those on the way down too.
Awesome. I want to know, I want scores posted
Uh-huh.
so that everyone knows. Facebook it or something.
That's right.
So you found CrossFit. You just kind of got started. The community kept you coming back. That having that kind of accountability with somebody starting really helped. Now, not very long ago, you started nutrition as well.
Yes.
And I know that you had been paying a lot of attention to kind of what you're eating, and you knew kind of what your body reacted to, certain things versus other things, and so you started to kind of play with that. How have things changed since then? Yeah,
for sure. I mean, so just stepping it back, like you'd said a little bit further, it was right after I had started CrossFit originally, where I was paying more attention to what I was eating, because I did not like feeling terrible. And we'd been watching it at home quite a bit too. Have those couple of kids have quite a few food sensitivities, and so my wife does a great job of substituting a lot of different things. So we were avoiding the dairy, the wheat, and corn types of products at home. And so I had probably had some sensitivities myself that I had just been ignoring for a lot of time, but then it became the self-reinforcing cycle of the less I ate of those things, the more sensitive I became to them. Yeah. Which what ended up, I think, being the best thing for me, because it took feeling like complete crap, complete garbage, to really decide not to eat the things that probably aren't the best for me anyway. And what I had noticed, it was about 3 months after I started CrossFit, I had been having some joint aches and pains here and there, and just attributed it towards, well, I'm being more active, and maybe I don't have the greatest form yet, and so it could be all those things. But it was really after I had completely taken wheat out of my diet at that point, or for the most part, 90% out, that all of that just went away. Yeah. And so that was kind of my first cue of, hey, there's more to it than just general gut feelings of bloating and not feeling great anymore. And so I'd been, like you said, kind of watching it a little bit. And then when you started offering the nutrition coaching, wanted to take it to that next step, because I'd felt like I had kind of plateaued on my general, not necessarily weight, but just general body shape and feeling about that. And I felt like one of the coolest things about that, I was telling others about it, is that also, you did not try to take it from 0 to 100. It was lots of little incremental gains. Yeah. I was listening to somebody talk about this other study, so I'm probably going to get all the specifics wrong.
Perfect.
But the general gist of it was basically that when you're trying to make big changes in your life, habit changes, you can really only change small amounts. I forget what percent they said. It was something like 15% at a time. Right. In order for it to actually stick and be long term. And I think that's what you've done a great job with when we first sat down and talked about what I typically ate and what that first goal for that first month was going to be. It wasn't a wholesale change to the diet. I think it was two things. It was eat more at breakfast, have more fruits and vegetables. Yeah. Okay. I could do those things.
Yeah.
And so started with that, got that as the baseline.
It's only for a month, only for like 30 days. Try that.
And then do that next little incremental change on top of that. And now the next one on top of that. And now I'm starting to use the app to actually track everything I eat. I told you that here just for the last few weeks, and that's been pretty eye-opening as well.
Yeah.
That, again, isn't making wholesale changes, but just that next little incremental one.
Yeah.
And all those little incremental changes, even though they don't feel like it from one day to the next, pretty soon you look back and it's been months and months of that, and you're like, wow, this has been a big change.
Yeah.
I was again, just kind of reflecting this morning on when I started, worst shape of my life, and I was at 229 pounds. And I think now I'm around 204, so about 25-pound difference.
Wow.
But I know some of that's water weight. It's not all fat.
Right.
But on the other hand, I've gotten a lot stronger.
Yeah.
I mean, I could barely do one pull-up when I started. Can do quite a few now.
Yeah.
And just all the other lifts are up 50%. So I don't know what that equates to for added muscle mass, but it's some amount of pounds. Even if it's 10 or 15 pounds, the combination of that is like a 40-pound swing.
Yeah.
And so that's just been from not one huge change, just lots and lots of little ones.
And showing up every day.
Exactly.
Right. Making this decision before you have to make the decision, so to speak. We this last weekend we had our kind of 6-week nutrition launch, and that's one of the things that we just talked about is take away the decision making before the decision happens, because you're going to travel, you're going to get sick, your kids are going to get sick, work's going to get busy. So just determining before all that happens, like, this is my priority, that allows you to continue to put those little bricks on one by one, right? And eventually you have a nice big tower, a Taj Mahal. I'm thinking Lego style, and so that's for Adam.
Yes.
So that he knows it.
There you go.
We're thinking
Another
about
good shout
Adam.
out. Yeah.
The 6 a.m. class is getting some shout outs. Ronnie, Levi, everybody's out there. Get those. Kate, she's a 6 a.m.er. Anna, give them all shout outs out there. When you started, what was the hardest, like, what was the hardest movement, or what was kind of the hardest little
What wasn't?
barrier? Yeah.
Yeah.
Now you say you look at the workouts before, and I know that there are some people that won't look at them because
Sure.
they're like, I don't want to be swayed from showing up the next day.
You know, I've never enjoyed running, but even that has been something that I don't mind, and depending on how much of it I somewhat look forward to now, as long as it's not 32 degrees below zero.
Right.
All the overhead movements are still a struggle, especially like an overhead squat, thrusters. I really didn't like thrusters early on. Those are getting better. The overhead squat, at least form, is getting better.
Yeah.
Still working on the weights.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have a favorite movement?
I like a lot of the gymnastic movements.
Yeah.
I like the pull-ups, the toes to bar. I like all the different types of weightlifting, squats, deadlift, bench press, all those.
Yeah. Is there a movement that if you never had to do it again, you'd do away with that?
Oh, probably the overhead squat.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick with that one. And for me, I think it's just general mobility that I'm still working with. If I can get my shoulders and hips in all the proper places, then probably the movement gets a whole lot better.
How's your body movement changed since you started?
Good question. As I sit here hunched over in my chair.
Yeah.
I think general posture has improved. Just how I feel about it and endurance. Where literally just going up a flight of stairs before, I would feel the heart rate going up a little bit, and so that's gone. And now it just, whether it's working outside or helping a friend move or whatever it is, just feel like end of the day, no big deal.
Yeah.
This is so much easier than a CrossFit workout.
Yeah. Yeah. Shift gears a little bit. Outside of flying, outside of the gym, I know that you're a big fan of sailing. How did you get into sailing? We're in Nebraska.
I wouldn't even say that I'm into it yet.
Okay.
I'm very interested in it.
Okay.
So I have a friend. It was a former pilot that I was flying with, and he was just telling me how he had a friend who, his family, they were taking a year or two off, where they had just bought a sailboat. They knew nothing about it, and they were just going to sail around the Caribbean.
Wow.
I was like, that sounds crazy. I've never even considered something like that. But then again, that's also how I first got into flying. It was kind of I had no real background of it, but it was just that little bit of inspiration of, well, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I kind of want to learn more. And so he had recommended a few books, kind of biographical or autobiographical books of people who had done that. And that just got me paying more attention, started subscribing to some different sailing magazines. And as a family, we've always, when we vacation, we go to Caribbean tropical types of places. We love water, we love sun, and just being outdoors and doing all those things. And so it just seemed like, well, why wouldn't we enjoy doing more of that on a boat? And so then over the last year, we've kind of gone and started testing a few of those. And so I actually started going on a few different sailing trips. And then...
How long were those?
Well, so I should... It's going to be kind of a not chronological story here.
That's all right.
So one of these, the only one where we've actually stayed on a boat, it was just a short little 5-night stay.
Okay.
Which was great, both that it was a fantastic experience, also that we loved it because it was the year prior that we had actually committed to putting down a deposit on a boat of our own. It seemed like a low pressure way to get started because just through our experience, we've had rental houses in the past. Also, where we just with our charter fleet, familiar obviously with other owners owning planes and leasing them to us. Mm-hmm. And there are similar arrangements with boats. And so when we saw how that could work out, and of course, tax advantages of that and how all the financials actually really make it much more reasonable.
Yeah.
As reasonable as anything like that can be. We decided, you know what the heck? That seems like a great little test, possible way that we can just enjoy those types of vacations even more.
Right.
And just kind of see where that takes us.
Yeah. So you have a boat. It's either, is it done or is it, I've been seeing pictures online.
That is the great question. So it's been manufactured in France and just, especially over the holidays, kind of trying to get information about what that status is has been interesting. It was supposed to go on a transport ship this past week, then found out, literally had one email that said that we closed on it, and then 5 minutes later another email saying from somebody else that all the dock workers are on strike over in that portion of France this week, probably will be next week as well. And so the only way that it was going to get onto the transport ship was hire a delivery captain who's going to take it over to England and it was going to get picked up from there. And so it'll be in Florida here beginning of February.
Wow.
And then down in a charter base, hopefully by the end of March.
And it's already got a name, right? What's its name?
Hero's Journey.
All right, so tell me about that, because I was curious where the Hero's Journey name came from.
From my wife again. We were both talking of how we really struggled coming up with names for our kids, where we'd pour through the name books and each only come up with like 2 that we liked. And so it was not a surprise that we struggled coming up with a name for the boat either. But she went to a yoga class, actually. She was getting teacher certified. And they just happened to be doing an exercise during that where I think they were writing a story, I believe, about themselves. And the teacher was kind of describing this concept of the hero's journey that's used in a lot of books, a lot of movies, of general idea of the hero, kind of the common person, minding their business at home, and something happens that kind of takes them away from home, out of their comfort zone. They struggle, they learn a lot, and they grow.
Yeah.
And when she heard that, she's like, that's perfect. That's kind of what this is for us.
Yeah.
And so that's how that name came to be.
Yeah, that's great. Are your kids excited about a sailboat?
They are. It's always hard to figure out exactly how much they really understand about that. But yes, all we had to tell my daughter especially is that they have these seats up front that at least the boat salespeople name the dolphin seats, because that's where you sit to watch the dolphins up the front. And she was sold.
Yeah, awesome. So outside of the gym, outside of flying and sailing, is there other stuff that you enjoy doing?
Well, I just like being outside in general. I love to go ride my bike around outside, read books, watch movies,
Yeah.
all low-key things.
Yeah. What kind of books are you reading lately? Is there a book that stands out lately that you've read that you're like, man, I really love that book?
You know, I jump all over the place. I read a lot of kind of science fiction and fantasy, and at the same time I enjoy nonfiction, historical books, sometimes kind of self-improvement or business types of books. Most recently, I just pulled one off of the bookshelf. It was one of the old Douglas Adams Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy books. It was book 6 of 3. It was the very last one.
Yeah.
So I've been enjoying that all over again.
How about podcasts? You a podcast listener?
Some, yeah. Yeah. Of course, the CrossFit Lincoln podcast, number one.
Of course.
You know, I also listen to like Bulletproof Radio.
Yeah.
Sometimes the Joe Rogan Show. Also been enjoying the Bible Binge podcast where they kind of put popular culture type of aspects to it to make things all more relatable.
Fun. That's cool. You're headed out to the Caribbean.
Yes. Tomorrow morning.
So you're gonna make everybody do a bodyweight workout on the airplane.
Yes.
Who's flying?
Myself and John.
Okay.
Yes.
You guys gonna put it in a barrel roll for everybody?
Of course.
At least once on the way in, spiral in. Yeah, I think that should start the weekend off right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you're gonna miss basketball. Mike's on my City League basketball team, my YMCA League basketball team, and everyone should know that he is a fierce rebounder and the greatest assist man of all time. After one game,
it should also be known that I was only informed after the fact that I was by far the oldest guy in the team. Second, well, with Aaron in close.
I was close second.
Close second, yes.
Yeah. You didn't know that until after the fact?
I did not.
Oh. Well,
but it's also a fantastic excuse.
Yeah, absolutely. There's like 3.
Back in my day, I could do that too.
Yeah, there are 3 older guys that we just rotate in and out. It's perfect. I only have to run for like 3 minutes, and then I can hand it off to somebody else.
That's right. Although I will say, I was very pleasantly surprised with how I felt after that last game, just as a result of here working out for the last year.
Yeah, I was gonna ask that as my follow up because I know you've mentioned that you play in an alumni tournament at Johnson Brock. Once a year?
In
every
theory,
2 years?
You know, I played last year, and I don't think I'd been in it for at least 5, if not more years prior to that.
Yeah.
And so that's how much I've picked up of basketball before you talked me into this league.
Yeah.
Yes.
So when you play there, do you play with guys that you played with in high school? Is that how that works?
Yes. Well, up until last year, it was pretty much just our class. But now as we are becoming the older guys out there, the groupings, the number of classes that we're having to join together to field a team keeps on getting bigger. I forget how many years that we spanned last time, but it was several.
Yeah. And did you feel fitter playing last year than you did the last time you'd played 5 years ago?
Definitely last year.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of excited to play again this year. See how that goes. Yeah.
Yeah. When people see you from back then, how often do you get to see high school classmates or college classmates?
Not too often. Yeah, just a couple times a year.
Yeah. I wonder, do they think you're crazy when you tell them you do CrossFit?
You know, I haven't seen too many of them since I've really gotten started, other than that tournament, and so really haven't talked about it with too many people at this point.
I'm just curious. I want to know what happens when maybe they're intimidated by you and how fit you are.
I doubt that.
Really? You don't think so?
There are some fit guys in my class.
How has CrossFit kind of affected how you approach life outside of the gym?
Yeah, so I'd say one of the bigger impacts to my day-to-day life has probably just been the resulting drop in stress levels. I was telling my wife about this, where it just kind of seemed before I got going like I was at a daily 7 or 8 on a 1 to 10 scale, and so it didn't take that much to bump up the last remaining amount and be redlining. And it just seems, partially just from being tired after the hard workout each morning, that there's just less energy to care about the little things. And that's a great benefit. And so I'd say that probably took me from that 7 or 8 down to a 3 or a 4.
Yeah.
And I think that's just helped all aspects of life, both how I interact with people at work and also at home.
Yeah. Your wife, we're gonna get her into the gym for a buddy day.
Probably not CrossFit. She did start going to Orange Theory here
Yeah.
a couple months ago,
Good
and
for
so
her.
she's been enjoying that.
Very cool. Very cool. I know that in some aspects they're very similar.
It
in
seems
how they
that way,
approach
yeah.
fitness.
Right. It's close enough that on occasion, as I'm doing the typical CrossFit, telling her about the workout, and she's able to try to equate that, what type of distance rowing was that many calories,
Yeah.
so that she can get a frame of reference for that.
Yeah. So you started October 2018, you said?
I think so,
then?
right around there.
If you were talking right now on this podcast to yourself in like summer of 2018, what would you tell yourself?
Yeah. Well, I don't think that summer 2018 me would really believe the difference. I'm in better shape than I have been my whole life, and really just with the cycle that I'd been in of starting, and every time kind of like starting a new diet, feel like this is the time it's going to be different,
Right.
and it never was. And so really never believing that it was going to be different, but this time it actually has been.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, probably just telling myself that, no, this really is going to be the thing that changes your life, and that you're going to want to keep doing for the rest of your life. That's been a really cool thing.
Yeah. Do you think that could be that way for everybody? They can find something that, and it might not be CrossFit, but they
Yeah.
can find something that they want to keep doing for
Absolutely.
longer than a couple months or a couple weeks.
Well, I think that's probably the biggest key, is not trying to find that one perfect workout, or the one that's going to change you the quickest, that you're going to lose the most weight or get the strongest on the quickest. It's what is it that you're going to be happy doing for the long term.
Mm-hmm.
Because unless it's something enjoyable, then you are going to quit after a while. And so pretty soon thereafter, you might as well not have had done it in the first place.
Yeah.
And yeah, as far as whether or not CrossFit's for everyone, it's definitely not. It's certainly for those who enjoy working hard, like doing hard things, because it's definitely both of those. But for that person who is kind of serious about making the change in their life, I think absolutely.
Mm-hmm. How long did it take for you? Let me preface this by this question. I'm going off of the assumption that there's maybe a workout or some movements that you're like, at the beginning, everything's kind of hard.
Yeah.
And then you get to a point where I feel pretty good about these specific movements, and I know that I perform better later. How long what was kind of that learning curve, and what did that look like from when it was hard, everything felt hard, to you started to feel like, oh, some things aren't as hard, and then it just continues to kind of snowball and progress, and now you look back and you're like, man, I know I wouldn't have been able to do that.
Yeah. You get a pretty quick acceleration early on. It's a steep curve of quick improvements, I'd say the first 3 to 6 months. And then growth slows, but that's also the cool thing about just sticking through, and then we always come into a new cycle that changes it up. We're in a great cycle right now where I'm definitely feeling the results of that.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I'd say within a few months, I had historically done a lot of the upper body and pull-up types of movements. And so even though I couldn't do much of that when I originally started CrossFit, it seems like there's a certain muscle memory that the things that you've done more of in your past, even if you haven't done them recently, they come back quicker.
Sure.
And so those are some of the ones I started feeling more comfortable with sooner than, well, like the squats and overhead squats, those types of things that I'm not going to be doing in my garage or basement. Those have been a little bit slower to get to where I felt really, really happy with my current progress and weights that I'm doing.
Cool. Is there anything specific that you feel like people, like you want to tell people about your experience, or about where you came from or where you're going, kind of that journey?
Man, that's a broad question.
Yeah. I'm opening the floor for you, Mike.
Well, I mentioned this during the video, and it's very true, is just that my perception was I had to be at a certain point to get started. And that was very far from the truth, just because every single move, no matter what it is, there's a way to scale it, or whether it's the movement itself or just the weight or the number of reps. And man, I was scaling like crazy early on. Every possible thing I was scaling. And so that lets you get started. At the same time, I always respond well to having kind of that next achievable goal. And so this is also very well set up for having a myriad of those types of goals, whether it's the next weight on a certain movement or even something as simple as the next time I have to run that series of 400-meter runs, not being as winded.
Right.
And so that's been fun to kind of experience that change to where some of the cardio stuff, because I've never seen myself as a cardio guy. Now going through those workouts and feeling like, I actually don't feel too bad after that.
Yeah. Like you're rowing. Yesterday, we had rowing intervals, and I thought that looked like one that you're like, it got hard, but you had a determined look on your face.
That did get hard. Well, I feel like as a tall guy this is one of the moves where I actually have the advantage with, because I get more travel with my pull.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I need to represent for the tall guys and not let up on this one.
It was a battle between you and Max.
Yeah.
Another 6-aimer.
That's not a battle I'm going to win too often.
Yeah. Well, awesome, Mike. Thanks so much for joining us.
For sure.
Wish you the best this year. Good luck on your trip. Safe travels. Say hey to all of our friends there at Silverhawk Aviation. And any last parting words before we take off?
No, I don't think so.
Thank
you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks everybody for joining us for CrossFit Lincoln Connections. Aaron Perkypile, Mike Gerdes. Thanks so much again. We'll see you guys next time.